Welcome to Unity Spiritual Center, Pflugerville. Thank you. And we're ready. Happy Mother's Day. And we're talking today about we are the creators that hold the seed to the future. And it's really fascinating to me, the idea of motherhood. Now, I don't have that personal experience, so I have a hard time talking about it. But I look at it as a metaphor for what we are as children of God. And I got involved in the idea of Mary. And the Bible is very, very interesting. It gives you the details, but not a lot of structure. It just says that an angel appeared to Mary and said, okay, you're going to give birth to the son, to God's son, and it's all going to work out. And then he left, okay? Really, it's that short. And at the time, Mary had to be 14, 15, 16. Everybody got that picture? And you got to understand, they didn't have automobiles back then. They didn't have vans. They didn't have ambulances. They didn't have hospitals, okay? And they lived a rather bare existence. And Mary was espoused to Joseph. So there was a dowry that changed hands, okay? So everybody understands she was a purchased bride. And the Bible is very clear that she was a virgin. And so that sets the story and then lets it go there. And the next thing we know, she's on a donkey on her way to Bethlehem, okay? To pay taxes and to register as being from the house of David. Now, can you imagine in today's world a 14 or 15 or 16-year-old teenage woman riding on a donkey, pregnant? All I can hear is, Mommy, I don't want that. Look at the consciousness of a teenager at that level, okay? And the key to it is the word angel, okay? So I really like to go into the metaphysical interpretation. And if you don't know that, we get into Unity's revealing word. And the word angel implied a communication from God, if I can use that terminology, okay? Now, in other words, that's a divine thought that comes through consciousness and shows up in the individual's thinking. So that's the beginning of creation. One of the things to understand is we are created in the image and after likeness of divinity. We are a divine being in consciousness when we know how to do that. And stop and think about this. We live in a material world. You're sitting on chairs, right? You're home looking at a TV. You are in a physical environment. And you have physical clothes on, thank God. And you are a physical being living in a physical world. And any changes that take place in the physical world take place in a physical way, yes? Now, spirit, and the Bible defines, or Jesus defines God as spirit. So God is spirit and must be worshipped in spirit and truth. So there is spirit and there is material, physical. As far as we know, physical is matter. It is not spirit. It's a frequency accumulated together through a thought creates a matter. So for matter to change, matter has to change. So change doesn't occur on a spiritual, it occurs first on the spiritual level and then has to occur on the physical level. So how does spirit and energy for good that's everywhere present affect the material? And the only way that can affect it is through you. So we are the fingers and hands and eyes and whatever we are of God. And that relationship has to be established throughout the earlier years in the creation issue. So how does God change things? God changes things through you. So everybody's looking for world peace. World peace has to start where? With us. And you take the metaphor of Mary. So Mary got an idea from God, and I'm putting it in today's world. Get it? It's like, and see, back 2020, it's now 2,200, 24 years? How did they talk? How did they explain? How did they keep records? And it was a very traditional culture. Everybody knew everybody else. They lived in small villages. So can you imagine a 14 or 15-year-old in a close society like that turning up pregnant? So number one, there's the beginning. And can't you just hear her saying, but God told me. Try that today. So understand all the issues that she had to deal with. And how did she deal with them? It's there. You see that verse? It says, Mary treasured all these things and pondered them in her heart. And her heart is what? The consciousness of being. So Mary had an idea that came directly from God. She recognized it. Everybody hear that one? She recognized it. She knew, okay. And then she had the faith to hold on to that idea until it was complete. Now, if you're told that you are birthing God's child, when it's a baby, what do? Stop and think about it. How you would think, okay? And how long did she have to hold the thought of, I am supporting God's vision for the future? How many times did she have doubt? I don't know about you, but you stop and think about it. I tried to find out how far it was on donkey, but it's at least 40 or 50 miles on donkey from where they were to Bethlehem. So can you imagine 40 or 50 miles on donkey? Okay. And how do you explain to everybody that this is God's child? You don't. You just ponder it. You just think about it. You just rehearse it, knowing that it is divine. Okay? And you think about the metaphor of people that have brought through ideas. I started talking about this with Madeline last night. First person she mentioned is Elon Musk and Tesla. Okay? What do you mean, an electric car? He was working on that years before. Anybody familiar with Edison? And Edison tried the light bulb, 10,000 times before he had success. So every major idea has created a seed, which is a divine idea, and the seed has been held in mind, and then treasured in the heart. Okay, and the heart is the seat of consciousness, of the seat of thinking of only the Christ, if you will. Okay? So do you see the metaphor? Now the question is, how often do we let the idea go away? How often did Mary think, oh my God, this is terrible, I don't believe it. How can I handle this? And how did she bring back her courage, her faith, and her work, understanding that she was part of the divine plan to bring, I don't want to use the term salvation, but right living into who we are. So you talk about a journey, and how did she sustain her belief? How did she give up? Anybody familiar with the what ifs? What if? Okay, and we all go through that. How many times, and one of the things I have had all kinds of ideas that I got halfway there and then nope, not working, bye. Okay? So how often do we do that? And the question is, do we really know when I get a seed of divinity? And do I have enough faith? Go back to the 12 powers. Do I have enough of the 12 powers to bring this into reality in the physical world? Interesting idea. It really is. Okay. And I think about, I obviously have to think about this church. It's an idea that's been, you guys hang together no matter what. You understand? It's like a big fortress that's here. Okay. And those of you who are new, you're believers. You came in. It's amazing. And so The seed of the idea is there, and it is divine. It is holy. We wouldn't be here together if it wasn't. And it's time. It's time. I look at what's happening in the world. And I can remember, I'm trying to remember a date, but it doesn't come. But I would say when Madeline and I first got involved in the New Thought Metaphysical Unity environment, we had to be careful who we talked to. Anybody got that one? You certainly couldn't talk openly. And my mother and father prayed for us forever and ever and ever. And you couldn't tell the next door neighbors what you did. You belonged to that cult. Okay? You couldn't do it. And anybody agree it's different today? There's an awareness. There's an opening. Okay? And it's now. Now is the time. And I go back and I think, well, I talk pretty open. I even tell people I'm a unity minister. And they go, oh, okay. There's no looks of awe or anything. So things have changed. And it's a different world. And what are we pondering in our heart? What are we seeing in the future? Because it's the vision that creates the future. Okay? Now, I could go on and on and on, but this is the song we sang, the meditation we did, and all kinds of things going on. And a seed of creation. I want you to get this idea. Population continues on. In this room, there's about 18, 20 sitting. Do you understand that from that, how many are out there because you're here? Okay. Now, I'm not gonna point fingers, but some of you are very, very productive. Okay, and others are quiet. Okay, but the truth is there are at least 50 or 60 people sitting in this room because of you. So the creativity starts with an idea and a seed, and once the seed is fertilized, the seed has to continue. And I really give a lot of credit to mothers, because the 9 months is not easy, at least my experience is. I can remember I had just taken a job as plant manager of a big plant in South Florida. I'm dealing with a union problem. They're ready to walk out, and the plant was shut down. And I get a call from my wonderful wife crying because she's uncomfortable. Okay? And I'm willing to bet some of you did that too. So that period of time is a period of nurturing. Gestation is what it's called. And it's the same idea that occurs in consciousness. Okay? So it's sticking with it. It's knowing it's all going to work out. It's knowing it's a divine idea and that the idea has value and I need to stay with it. Okay? And I look, stop and think about it. Those of you that have families in here, what are the families doing? You have created people that are doing all kinds of things. Okay, I know people that are now college professors. I know people that are doing the projections for the need for electricity on the West Coast. Some of you have medical doctors or medical people with you. Some of you have what? Some people are building buildings. We need buildings to live in, yes? So there's all kinds of things coming because you had a seed of an idea and a belief, and you work together to create. And they have a good habit of doing it themselves and multiplying. So because of you and because of an idea, one seed of an idea, ideas multiply. Okay, take a look at and again, you use the example of today, Tesla. How many of those electric vehicles are out there? And how many people are now, or companies are now making electrical vehicles, even though I'm not sure I want one. But the idea is things have to be created in the beginning, and the creation is a seed of a beginning, and the seed needs to be nurtured and taken care of, fertilized, and brought to fruition. And even when it gets into material, it still needs nurturing and pondering from the heart. Okay? So look how important you are. So I've communicated the idea. I really have. I wanted you to understand. And how many generations have you started? Stop and think about that. Okay, now we still, all of you in this room have supported somebody to do something they haven't done in the past. How many of you gave encouragement to somebody? You created a seed in another person's mind that they could do this. How many people have kids that are doing amazing things you never thought they'd do? Yeah. Okay, because you created the seed and you started the seed, but then you encouraged it. So everything begins with an idea. The idea is the beginning, and it's up to us to continue from our heart to ponder what we see as good and agree and support it as it reaches fruition. And once it does reach a point of, I forget what the term is, but anyway, it just starts doing it automatically. Okay? So, I really don't have too much else to say.
Can I ask you something?
Yes.
When you talk about mothers, I don't think that mothers necessarily have to have their own children. I'm looking at people that don't have, haven't born children. And I think
People that take over the role of.
They take over the role and take care of other people.
And there's people in the room that do that. We have children that do that. So there's always an idea, though. See, the idea is that somebody needs this. There's a seed. And the seed is basically a spiritual seed that you bring to fruition. Okay? Alan?
It's that feminine quality, you have that masculine quality and the feminine quality. And that feminine quality is labeled mother in one of its iterations.
Interesting, a label.
It's that creative spirit. It's that nurturing spirit. It's that strong spirit. There's so many qualities that are, unique to that side of everyone.
You bring up the feminine. I look at what has occurred throughout history, and it's more encouragement. In other words, if somebody has a preconceived idea that somebody can do something, that's encouragement. There's also a preconceived idea that people can't do things. So that whole blocks of our culture are shut down because they're given preconceived ideas. So I've seen that throughout history go back and forth. And we're in a feminine resurgence. We really are. As a matter of fact, if you stop and think about it, I'm on the edge. But really, you go back throughout history, there was a feminine culture years ago, pre-Sumerian, okay, and then it went into patriarchal. And in my opinion, it's swinging way back now, okay? So it's a very interesting conversation, okay? And you're right. But it still requires, in today's world, from biology, as far as I know, it requires male and female to get seeds that grow. Okay? So it's an interesting metaphor you're talking about, because it requires a group to get things done of energy. And we all have that specific energy. That's why I look at anything as an orchestra. An orchestra is no good if everybody plays the violin. You got to have clarinetists and drummists and trumpets, and so everybody has their different skill, and together we get things done beautifully. So, good.
So Cahill, Ron, I always remember what he said, that your children are not your children.
And so the mother, it's a very, very significant holiday to me, okay, and for us. But I look at, I honestly look at metaphors as life. And if you stop and think about it, sooner or later we got to ponder and think it through and know from our hearts it's all going to work out. Okay? It's like Randy says, the building's already here. Okay, and he believes that, even with the rafters I just heard now. Okay, I would like to do something special. We want to celebrate mothers. So Madeline, would you come up and help? Thank you. I love you. Bye.